Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. I am very excited about this unboxing that I'm doing for you today. I think this piece of equipment is going to be really useful in my kitchen. We live on a little hobby farm and we're working towards being more self-sufficient with our food. And I think that this is going to prove really useful as time goes on. So what I have in here is a Vevor 10-inch meat slicer. I have never owned a meat slicer before, so I am going to be learning right alongside you guys with this. I'm going to get it unboxed, show you all the different pieces and how it works, and then I have I believe it's a bottom round, a very lean bottom round roast waiting in the freezer right now. I'm getting it a little bit frozen. I'm going to slice it up and I'm going to try to make my very own beef jerky. So let's start off by getting this out of the box and seeing what it looks like. It is not a small piece of equipment, I can tell you that already. So there's this packet here that has the paperwork and a few other things in it. Look like the sharpening stones, some kind of a guard, cheat sheet to figure out if something is wrong. And then we have the operating manual, which I am gonna go sit and peruse real quick because I really do wanna keep all of my fingers as I use this product. So I'm gonna, do my due diligence and read the manual. Okay, so I read the manual, I got everything cleaned extremely carefully, and I got this guard put on. The manual was very basic about basic maintenance and cleaning. It didn't have the info about like where this went. I just had to kind of figure it out. Pretty easy to figure out. And the manual didn't really have like really basic operating instructions, and this piece of equipment is not meant for just the average home cook. It is an industrial, high quality, like restaurant quality type product. So it's something that you're gonna have to like research and figure out how to use on your own. And the manual is not meant to be like for the beginners necessarily. So definitely take some time to watch YouTube videos and learn about how to use a meat slicer safely. So down here you can see the adjustable like thickness of what you're slicing. So it goes all the way to 12, and from what I understand, each one is about 0.5 millimeter. So you can go all the way to 12, and that would be cutting it at a 6 millimeter thickness. And of course, whenever you're not using the machine, you always want to have it on 0 or past 0 so that you're not in danger of cutting yourself. There's the on and off switch right there. This comes off for cleaning just by removing this, and then this lifts off for cleaning. And then you can take the blade cover off and you can take the blade out and clean that. Of course, you want to have like cut resistant gloves if you're going to do that. Like I said, we're really trying to keep all our fingers with this product. This here is really cool. It is actually a sharpener, so it can sharpen the blade for you. It's turned around backwards right now. So when you're using the meat slicer to slice meat, you would have this turned around backwards. When you want to sharpen the blade, you take this off and flip it around, and then these stones, these wet stones in here, there's 2 of them, they will sharpen the blade for you. And then when you're done sharpening, you flip it back around and it stays there for storage. And you saw when I pulled out of the box, there were 2 extra wet stones in there. So you have those to keep for when you need them. The blade cover here comes off by unscrewing this knob right here. So of course, this is where the meat goes. This slides up and down like that. And so it keeps everything in place as you're using the handle here and sliding back and forth to slice the meat. All right, I think those are all of the moving parts. I'm going to get this plugged in. I'm going to go grab my roast from the freezer downstairs, and we're going to give this a try and make some jerky. So I did cut most of the fat off, trimmed off everything I could. I stuck it in the freezer for about 45 minutes. So it's just a little bit frozen, but not frozen solid. I want to cut it against the grain So I'm gonna put it into my meat slicer like this, and I am going to put down the holder. I should look at the names of all these things. So this is the active pusher, and this is the product pusher handle. So there we go. As far as the thickness, I'm going to put it on a 5, which would be about 2.5 millimeters. And I'm gonna see how that looks, and I may adjust it. Okay, I think I'm ready to turn it on. We'll start over here. It's very quiet, very, very quiet actually. All right, let's see how this goes. Ooh. So far, so good. I'm gonna turn it off and look at these here. Okay. Oh, my roast is funny shaped. It's got a hole in the middle, but that is the thickness there. And I think that looks good for like a chewy beef jerky. The Two Crazy Ketos have a recipe for meat chips, just, you know, similar to carnivore crisps. And you obviously want that a lot thinner, which you could totally do on here. You could make like really thinly shaved meat, or you could go up to like a thin steak. All right, so I am just gonna get this whole roast chopped up, and then we will be on our way to making jerky. Last little chunk that wasn't quite able to slice, and there it is. That looks beautiful. All right, I am going to whip up my marinade real quick. I'm using a marinade recipe by Wholesome Yum. I'm not following all of the recipe for like the cooking and stuff. She does it in an oven. I'm gonna do it in a dehydrator, different stuff like that. But as far as the marinade, I'm gonna follow her recipe. So I will link that recipe down in the description. So the recipe I'm doing is for 1 pound, and I have almost 3 pounds of meat. So I'm going to triple the recipe. The first thing is coconut aminos, or you can use soy sauce. Coconut aminos do add some carbs, but I prefer it over the soy sauce personally. I'm gonna do 3/4 of a cup. Next is 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and this is optional, just for some flavor. And I always choose the kind that doesn't have added wheat or added soy, because some of them do. So for the garlic, the recipe calls for a teaspoon, and that would be a tablespoon of garlic for tripling the recipe, but that's just too much. In our family, we don't like too much garlic. So I'm just gonna keep it with the 1 teaspoon. I think that's gonna be plenty for us. Same with the onion powder. I'm gonna just do 1 teaspoon instead of the whole tablespoon, just to make it not too overpowering with the onion and garlic flavor. For the salt, I am gonna use some smoked salt. I figured that's only gonna make this recipe better. So one recipe calls for a teaspoon, so I'm gonna do a full tablespoon. Then black pepper also calls for a teaspoon, so tripling it, so doing a full tablespoon. Then crushed red pepper flakes, recipe calls for half a teaspoon. I'm just gonna keep it at a teaspoon because I don't want the jerky to be too spicy, and this definitely can add some heat. And then the recipe calls for Bestie Brown monk fruit allulose. I do not have that. I wish I did. It sounds really good. So I'm just gonna use plain allulose instead. I'm gonna add in 3 tablespoons. Gonna give that a whisk, and then I will get my meat slices marinating. That smells so good already. I'm gonna throw this into the fridge for about 30 minutes, maybe longer, then get it going in the dehydrator. Also, since I have the meat slicer out and it's already dirty, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a pork loin that I have in the fridge, And I'm gonna get that sliced up, and I'm gonna try to make some kimchi sriracha pork jerky. Thought that sounded really good. Time to lay out the meat onto the dehydrator trays. I do have a video where I review the dehydrator that I have, so if you're curious about that, I will link it up in the cards. This is my pork loin that's marinated in the Sriracha kimchi marinade. All I did was use half a cup of coconut aminos, half a cup of the kimchi Sriracha, mix that up. I think it's gonna be really good. It smells really good for sure. So I'm just gonna get all of these laid out nice and flat and get them in my dehydrator, and I'm not sure exactly how long it'll take. I'm thinking like maybe 4 to 6 hours or so, but I will let you know when I know. So I've got my 4 pork trays up here, 3 beef trays here. So there was about, I think it was 2.8 pounds of the beef, and there was a little more than that of the pork. So I've got probably around 6 pounds of meat in here. And you can see I still have 3 trays I could put in, but I'm going to call it good for now. I'm going to cook it or dehydrate it on 155. There we go. And I'm going to set it to 6 hours, but I'll probably start checking it at around 4 hours. There we go. So while we're waiting for the jerky, I thought I would give you my kind of final thoughts after unboxing and using the slicer for 2 different things now. First off, I decided to try the pork loin in here without doing the freezing ahead of time. With the beef roast, I froze it about 45 minutes, and that seemed to be really, really good to give it a little bit more structure and let it slice really easily. The pork loin definitely was more difficult to slice. It made more of a mess. And from now on, I will definitely be doing the par freezing method before slicing. So that is my first tip. Next, I want to make it really, really clear that this is a very powerful, heavy duty, and dangerous machine. This is like a more industrial type piece of equipment. It is not one of those household kitchen appliances that you just keep in your cabinet and pull out once every day to use and then put it away. It is definitely a process to take apart and clean. It's something that I will be using on meat processing days, not an everyday use type item. Like if we're breaking down a whole bunch of meat, eventually we want to get to breaking down meat goats, that kind of thing. Or if I want to do a huge batch of beef jerky, it'll be like a production. So like I said, this is the first meat slicer I have owned, so I don't have any great insight into comparing this one to others. I will just say I'm super impressed with how heavy duty and how quality this product seems to be. I'll also throw in here again that if you're not familiar with meat slicers, if you've never had experience with them, definitely do your due diligence and research. There's lots of YouTube videos and different information you can find online just about general care and use of a meat slicer. It is something that has a learning curve, and you're gonna have to get used to it and definitely learn how to use it safely. So highly recommend that if you are not familiar with this kind of equipment. So I know this is not gonna be something that all of you are gonna be rushing out and buying. It is for a very specific kind of person with a specific kind of lifestyle and need. But if you are someone who thinks this would be a good fit for your kitchen, I will have a link down below and a coupon code as well, so you can get a little bit of a discount. So 4 hours was actually perfect, the perfect amount of time for this jerky. It's bendable, not crunchy yet. I'm not going for chips. I wanted it to be more chewy. And I'm noticing that I could totally go thicker on the meat, especially on this pork loin. It seemed like it even though I set it to the same thickness, it seems like it dried out more and is thinner. Maybe there's more water in that meat or something. Anyways, but I tasted these and they taste really, really good. Definitely recommend both of these. They're both a little bit spicy. I like them still. I don't like really spicy, but a little bit is okay. My husband is really going to like them though. So I'm super excited about that. It just looks so good. I'm so excited.